Hello, and welcome to Office Hours, where I answer your questions about weight and weight medicine. I'm Dr. Meghan. I'm a board certified physician in internal medicine, lifestyle medicine, and obesity medicine. And this is really important because I actually prescribe these medications all the time. I actually talk to patients about their weight all the time. I've helped hundreds of patients lose weight, and I'm here to help you too. So if you're confused about your weight, if you have questions about weight medicines, and if you want medically based, fact-based answers. I'm not AI. I am a real person. You are in the right place. Welcome. As always, I can't answer personal medical questions because I'm not your personal doctor. So if your question does lean a little personal, I'm going to change it so it's more broadly, educationally applicable. And let's go ahead and get started. First question. What happens when you haven't hit your weight loss goal and you're about to start the highest dosage available? I've been on Wegovy since February 2025 and I've only lost 10 pounds. But I've lost 5 inches in my waist. However, I only needed to lose around 25 pounds. I'm very athletic and have seen a dramatic decrease in inflammation since this journey began. Congratulations. I'm currently on 1.7 milligrams of Wegovy and I'm about to titrate up to 2.4. Does anyone get to the top dose and reach their goal weight after not reaching it on prior dosages? Okay, so there's a bunch of questions here, which are all very good, but I'm just going to shorten this for the sake of clarity here. So essentially, this question is asking, like, do people reach their goals at the top dose, even though they may have maybe potentially fallen short on lower doses? And I will say, yeah. So in my experience, yes, that can happen for people. What I typically see for the people that it does happen for is that these are usually people who are on a medication that can really fight with their weight loss. So if somebody's on a high dose of Abilify or Prozac or Zoloft or gabapentin or a medication that we know is weight promoting, I often see that it takes longer for patients to get their results, and usually it's at the highest doses. Also, for people who have comorbidities, that might make it more difficult. They may not see the needle move as much until the higher doses. That would be people who have diabetes, people who have untreated sleep apnea, people who have thyroid issues. There are a lot of medical issues that can also interfere with weight loss. And so depending on what's going on for somebody, they may not see the scale move a lot until they get to the higher doses. And then there are people that they're just getting suboptimal results, or it just doesn't work well for them. That's pretty rare, but it does happen. Now remember, this is a bell curve, so there are going to be people, we've talked a lot about the super responders, but there are also people at the other end of the spectrum who don't really lose a lot of weight, or maybe they even gain weight. That can definitely happen for people too. It's pretty rare. I could probably count on one hand the number of people that I've seen that happen with, but it does happen. Sometimes people just, for whatever reason, they don't get great results. So if that is you, it's definitely, you want to have a longer conversation with your doctor about what else could be going on that's potentially interfering. But especially if people fall into one of those categories, for me, if they have a lot of significant medical issues that I know are contributing to their weight gain, and or they're also on medications that I know can be weight promoting, I usually won't. I'll be a little bit more lenient in terms of like calling it a day. So usually it's kind of the 3-month mark is when it's the generally accepted boundary in terms of like, okay, is this medication going to work or not? But for people who fall into those categories, I always like to see right up until the maximum dose what's going to happen, because for some people it just does kick in a little bit later. Great question. Thank you so much. Next question. I have lost 23% of my weight in almost 12 months. Oh my gosh, congratulations. I have hit a plateau the last 8 weeks due to the resurgence of food noise. I'm on 15 milligrams and tolerate the medicine very well. Can you talk about when we may see higher doses available of tirzepatide? this was also a question, a sub-question on the last one, is if they're going to be higher doses of Wegovy. So this is a great question. There is a little bit of research that is investigating the effect of higher dose semaglutide. I could guess there's probably some research about higher dose tirzepatide in the works. Nothing that I could say is definitely going to be happening anytime in the next few months. But in general, also something to think about is usually when we see higher doses of semaglutide or tirzepatide, also there's a risk of increased side effects. So there's always that kind of give and take. But yeah, I would stay tuned for that. I'll leave some links below. What I've been hearing a lot more about are the many different medications that are on the horizon for potential FDA approval. So definitely be on the lookout for those, and I will do a video about those very soon. But yes, I wouldn't say it's beyond the realm of possibility. Personally, I'm a little trepidatious because of those side effects. But, of course, there are always people who, once a day, at least I'm talking to somebody who has only weight loss and no side effects. But yes, I will keep you all updated on that. Next question. This is a follow-up to the video I did about super responders and the dose going too low, and I'll leave that link in the description. This is by the same person who asked that question who's giving an update. I'm wondering what you thought about doing a monthly shot. So just for context, this person was 223 at 5'2" when she started February 2024, only got to Zepbound 5. She lost over 100 pounds and really had to keep spacing out her dose and was still losing weight. So no side effects, but, when she had messaged me, she was then at 116 to 121. She felt like she looked gaunt and she wouldn't actually mind gaining a few pounds. So the follow-up is, and thank you so much for writing in, I was wondering what you thought about doing a monthly shot. As an update, I went as low as 109, although I am now maintaining at 114. So yes, I have lost a little bit more while doing a 28-day shot this time. I'm going to wait so I can do the shots on the first of each month and do once a month shot. The other alternative would be to go down to 2.5, but I have about a year and a half worth supply of the 5 since I'm doing the monthly shot, so that wouldn't make sense. Also, if I go down to 2.5, I feel like it wouldn't give me enough appetite suppression, or it might not control my cravings, which I've really loved those aspects of the medication with regard to building muscle. So, okay. Yeah, this is a really good follow-up because I think it also illustrates how logistics really figure into how somebody adjusts their medication. So I think initially I had said, if I had a patient like that who really was losing a lot of weight on a higher dose, the first thing I would do is back them way down on the dose and probably to the minimum dose first instead of doing like a once a month shot. But sometimes people, they have a stockpile, and these aren't, if it's not the vials, and the vials are single use, so you can't like use them over and over again. That's not really safe. Somebody had like hundreds or thousands of dollars worth of the higher dose. It's kind of make it work time. So if I had somebody who had a stockpile of a higher dose, I think, accessibility does come into play a lot. And so if I had a patient like that, I really wouldn't have a problem trying a monthly dose of a higher one if that's what they had, as long as their side effects are controlled and they're not having additional weight loss. Again, these are people who are really on the very, very, very far spectrum of that bell curve and really getting results that are quite literally like off the charts. So it's really very much an individualized case-by-case scenario. And of course, the first priority is to make sure that this person is safe. They're not losing too much weight. They're not losing too much muscle. They're feeling okay. They're not having terrible side effects. Like, that's really where the priority is. And then I think if it comes down to, yes, could go down to a lower dose, but actually they're feeling fine on this slightly higher dose, but the interval is longer. I don't think I would have a problem trying that. I think you're just in uncharted territory at that time. And so for me, it's really a discussion with the patient in terms of how it's going to work and really building a plan together. So thank you so much for that update, and please let us know how things continue to go, because it's certainly not everybody's journey, but it is some people's journey. And so I think, again, this is really uncharted territory, and we are all learning a lot as we go. So thank you so much. Okay, next question. What about if you are gaining weight on the max dose of tirzepatide? I never see anybody talk about that. Am I a rare phenomenon? I have gained 14 pounds since February on the max dose. I'm just throwing my money away. I count calories and hit macros daily. With the weight gain, I've only lost 22 pounds total and still have another 20 that I'd like to lose. Okay, I would love a little more background information for this, because it's a little unusual for somebody to lose weight and then gain weight without something else going on. So if this is you, please feel free to add more details in terms of the timeline. But yes, the short answer to the question is there are rarely people who will gain weight on the medication. It's supposed to help people lose weight, but at the other end of the spectrum, there are people who are not going to lose weight and actually who are going to not lose any weight or even gain weight. So that's pretty rare, but it can happen too. What's unusual about this scenario is it sounds like there was initial weight loss and then weight gain. So that, if that's happening for somebody, that usually makes me think there's something else going on. Like there's something that they stopped doing. There's something that's interfering with maybe their habits that were getting a lot better, or they stopped going to the gym, or maybe they moved and then they're eating differently now, and they're sort of in a chaotic situation in terms of logistics and kind of their schedule, or they started a medication, or there's usually, I've found, something else that's going on if somebody initially has lost weight and then gains weight. So if possible, I would love more detail on that. Also, for anybody this is happening to, if you're on a compounded medication and not on the brand name, the other thing is you can't really be sure that what you're getting is actually the right product. So it's not just and I talk about this all the time, but it's not just a safety concern, but it's also an efficacy concern. I just don't know if what you're getting is actually what you're supposed to be getting, right? At the dose you're supposed to be getting. And that's going to depend on who you're getting it from, if there's any oversight there. There's a lot of factors, but all this is to say that if you're on a compounded medication, you're less certain that what is in the vial is actually what's supposed to be in the vial. So that's also, if somebody was on that version of the medication, I would be suspicious about that. Again, anybody who gains weight on the medication, I'm thinking about, did they start a new medication that's interfering? Is there an undiagnosed medical condition going on? Like, what else could be interfering? So I would just encourage anybody whom this has happened to get very, very specific about your timeline and get really, really specific about what other things have changed in your life, because most of the time you will get the answer there. So not all the time, because every once in a while, again, somebody is going to not lose any weight or even gain weight. Pretty rare, but it does happen. But most of the time, especially if there was weight loss initially and you're not on a compounded medication, I would encourage any patient to do a really specific deep dive on the timeline to see what else is there, what other culprits could be lurking. So That is such a great question. Thank you so much for sharing. And if you have any updated info, we would love to know. That's going to do it for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you have a question afterwards, you can leave it on this video. You can leave it on another video and I will find it and add it to the list. Also, some of you are leaving results on the table and leaving money on the table. If you are on a GLP-1 and you do not have your eating patterns optimized, if you do not have your exercise optimized, you are missing out, okay? This is a very special window that you have while things are moving, while the scale is going down. And you really want to capitalize on that momentum. You don't want to solidify habits that you don't actually want to bring with you into the future. This is my specialty. I help people with this all the time. If you want help with that, I will leave that info down below. I do work as a life coach to help people with the non-medical aspects of their weight loss as well. But I see this over and over. People are just throwing this opportunity away. Don't let that be you. Let's just fix it. I'll leave all that info down below. Thank you so much for watching and please be well.